Got it. It says we're live. Amazing. Let me pop over to my YouTube channel and confirm that the sound is working, that everyone can hear us correctly. Give me 1 minute. Gallery view, that is correct. Let me just hit the hello, everyone. Can you hear me? All right.
A lot of energy. Dang.
Mhm. It's been a really powerful assemblage of humans this week. People who are really carrying this stuff and ready to do some work around it. So it's been a real treat and a real gift to have so many wonderful coaches, speakers, and healers today. Just give people a minute to jump on in the room. And if you guys want to share the live on your channel, the link, people might want to join. Jessica Causfield says yes. Sarah Monsura says hi. Jessica B, hi. Okay, amazing. And Devin Nicole, can you say something for me?
Hello there.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Awesome. Thank you, Allison. As I was waiting on that sound check, thumbs up, and it's balanced. It's no one's louder than anyone else. Just got to make sure that we're good on that. So awesome. Okay, let's jump on in. Hey, okay, there we go. Thanks, Jessica. Thanks, Susie Q. Amber Rose. Hey, Journey Home. Great to have y'all. Welcome back to interview number 2 for Shadow Work Week Day 6. I am joined by special guest, Devin Nicole of Twin Flame Revolution. I am thrilled and excited, honored to be here with the two of them today. These two are some of the realest people you will find on the internet when it comes to the specifics of what can happen in a connection like this, a soul activated connection, and what it takes to actually overcome it. Together, they have been through anger, addiction, loss of identity, abuse, sexual assault. I mean, these two have been through it all, and their experiences have stretched us so that they could develop a deep sense of empathy and understanding for everyone they support and hold space for. They know what it's like to have dealt with poverty and wondered where the next meal would come from and how they were going to get the lights turned back on. They also know what it's like to experience deep grief, the kind of grief that breaks you and nails you to the floor, wondering how you'll get up again. They've even been through near death experiences that seemed like they wouldn't end, only to come back with a purpose much stronger, that it actually kept the breath in their lungs. They've traveled the world, experienced other cultures, other religions, ways of life. They've helped thousands through their YouTube channel and through their online community. And today they are here with you for free to help you have that deeper understanding of what it means to be human and consciously create life intentionally so that life isn't happening to you, but that you are co-creating with it. They work in so many different energies, mysteries, and universal principles, seen and unseen. And they really sit at that cross section between psychology and spiritual development, because some people would like to just meditate their way into union. Others would like to just do some psychological deep diving their way into union. But what they have seen is that it does take a mix of both. And they'll unpack some of that today, help you understand how these things can exist in relationship to how you want to create your life. Dove and Nicole, I thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a treat for me too. So if you're just joining, please hit that like button. It's a fantastic way to get this amazing content to circulate. My name is Kay Moon. I am a twin soul channel and Western astrologer, and I am your host for Shadow Work Week. This is day 6. We already had one interview today with Lee and Sherry of Relationship Reinvented, which was amazing. If you missed it, watch it. You want to hear what they had to say. And tomorrow we'll be joined by Jai Gobind of Channel for Grace, a phenomenal astrologer. We'll be talking about the shadow work of the 8th house, which is where all the shadows and secrets live in your astrological chart, and how to unlock doing the work by understanding your 8th house. We'll also be joined by Allie's Tarot and understanding how to integrate and heal your shadow using tarot as well. Monday, we'll wrap it all up with a live healing in light language from special guest Lana, medicine woman healer. And everything you need to join the remaining live events is listed in the community section on this channel. And you'll find links to our guests today just below this video. Let's go ahead and dive in. My girls. I love seeing you two. Thanks for being here. It's always a treat to connect. I recognize that you two met. You guys have a very interesting story. You met online, and it was 2 years before you actually met in person.
Yep.
And then after those 2 years, it was just like 2 months, and whoop, you were living together.
Yeah, we U-hauled it. Yep.
I love it. You brought the U-Haul.
Yeah.
And so it's been about 13 years that the two of you have been working or living in union. And since 2016, where you've been coaching together and as in private practice. Can you tell us about everyone wants to know about how you get into union, but in this conversation, I want to focus on what the hell happened after you walked through the magic window? What can you tell us the post-union story?
Oh, that magic window. First of all, I just want to give everybody a shout out for being here and like making it through this past week. Because if you are watching this sort of in real time, wow, it's been such a big energy week and such a big transit. So I just want to acknowledge all of you guys. And it's so fitting that this week is happening. Of course, it was intentional, I'm sure, but it's so fitting that we're all really diving into these concepts of shadow right now. And we didn't know we were twins. So for those of you guys that don't know our story very well, we didn't know we were twins going into union. And it was like this giant firework explosion. It was a huge, massive remembrance, and then a massive blow up of, digging in. And we were full on in our shadow within a matter of weeks of being in a relationship together. So it's really interesting to think about. We were quite young as well in our journey. And so something that people say a lot is, you need to have all your shit together. You need to have done all of your work. And they're not also considering the past lives you've done. Nicole and I could not have missed each other. It wasn't about calling each other in. It wasn't about manifesting each other into the space. It was truly our soul's plan to intersect and to walk this massive shadow walk. And a very large part of our initial story and our, I would say, first 5 years of union was pretty much almost exclusively living out a sort of dual dark night.
Absolutely.
While being in the deepest love that we had ever felt, right? And I used to say it was like the great reset all the time. Like God would come and reset and wash away, the turmoil of what we had experienced, and we would come back into the space and we would feel unified, and we would feel the ego drop away, and we would feel the connection. And we didn't know what was happening to us, and then we would go back into that super dark night.
Yeah. My mama taught me that if I found the right woman, everything's going to be okay. She didn't tell me when I found the right woman that it was going to crack me open and break me to pieces. And, in the beginning, it was so hard to face that mirror, to face myself and to see how messed up I was, and how, I'm going to use the word sick, how sick my mind was when I met Dove. And I remember even before I met Dove, I really just wanted to feel whole, and I wanted to be at peace, and I wanted to find balance, and I wanted to get through my addiction stuff. And I didn't understand this idea of that there was going to need to be things that die away, and I was going to have to actively participate in that to have things grow. And so many versions of self that I had created due to my trauma, awoke in front of the light of Dove. and Dove's love. It like really came out, and I had no idea what was going on. I thought I was losing it. I like hated this woman and loved her so much all at once. And the part that hated her was the part that I hated myself. The part that hated her was the part that was trying to protect itself from being, found out, being fully seen and heard, because that wasn't safe for this ego. And so as we kept consistently staying and loving one another, these dragons or parts of self would come out, and we started to find ways to deal with them or to treat them. And so it's been that process this whole time of like, as things arise, I see it before I can free it. I have to see what's going on within me, my codependency, my addiction, all of those things. I had to fully see it, understand where it came from, so that I could begin to heal. And luckily I got this woman here that holds that divine space with me to do so. And it helps anchor in, the shadow process, which can be very scary. And it was very long in the beginning. It was just like, I was like, when am I coming out? There was no light at the end of the tunnel. I couldn't see it. So yeah.
Yeah. The interesting thing is that when we talk about twins sort of mirroring and bringing forth that energy, it was like a full detox, that shadow, that twin is a light. It's an illumination. That counterpart is your illumination. So inevitably the union allows for whatever shadow is there, and I want to say this because some of you guys might be like, well, I have so much more going on, and there can be all this weird spiritual elitism that happens. And, some of you chose to accumulate more trauma, more baggage, more things that needed to be dug up out of your shadow, because there was a soul level intention for that, right? For Nicole and I, we went through an enormous amount of stuff that had impact to the human being. But I know, and I have been given many messages from spirit and even from other people from spirit, that we chose that in order to be able to connect and do the work that we do. It was part of our dedication, part of our purpose, that we would have touched those things. And so the amount that we illuminated for each other was massive. And I think sometimes people compare and they say, well, I have so much shadow going on compared to this person that's got nothing, or they're just in a calm place, and maybe something is wrong with me. And I just want to say that each person is unique and individual, and our physical being is affected, right? So your soul is up there and looks down and goes, no, and I make jest of it. But like, I imagine we sit at a round table and we're like, cool, I'm going to have that experience and that experience and that experience. And that's going to be awesome because it's something different. And then we come into the body and there's no memory of that piece. And we just go, we get impacted. We get impacted by parents having divorced. We get impacted by sexual assault and abuse. We get impacted by abandonment. We get impacted by these things, and we don't have memory about what that may provide us an understanding for in the future. So what we also hadn't seen in our journey is that we were going to navigate these very, very deep terrains in order to get to where we got, which is, the ability to serve. And so, we've been through, Nicole mentioned, addiction, dealing with each other's traumas, dealing with also my fear and caretaking. We have been through infidelity. We have been through really a tremendous amount of stuff in our journey. And once we started to get to a place, we actually had a separation for about a year, and we got into a place of really coming back to ourselves. And then we came back to each other. And at that point, we started doing the work quite heavily together, right? Growing together simultaneously in the growth of the union, not just our individual growth. Our individual growth was happening. And then we worked together towards our union. And at that point is where, these undeniable gifts started bubbling up out of that. And we started seeing how this shadow, how what we had navigated was really also, there was gems in it. Right. And I always say, mine your shadow for gems, right? Go into it, mine it, and ask like, what is there? And there was gold, that we needed to share with other people, and that led us to starting our work. That led us to, dropping everything in our lives and heeding our spirit and spirit's call to step up and start to share with you guys, what, and it really came from the shadow, how we navigated the shadow was what we wanted to share. The fact that you are not alone is what we wanted to share. The fact that there is massive work that happens in union is what we wanted to share. The fact that anything can happen in union is what we wanted to share.
Yeah, I want to give an example of mining for gold. Like my addiction mined out Dove's caretakerness.
Yes.
Right? This caretaking so much that she would burn out. She would give so much. There was nothing left for her. There was reasons, obviously, why she did that, right? There was parts of herself that felt safe in doing that. There was also identity in it. There was also moments in her life where she really had to be the caretaker for many.
Mm-hmm.
And so my addiction like mined that piece out of her because I was so messed up. She had to take care of me a little bit. But then when I started to heal, and she was continuously trying to caretake, it felt like overreach, overbalance, and we didn't know what was happening. And I would call her like, don't be my mom, and I started to understand, and this is where it happens, is when both parties are aware of what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was aware she's a caretaker. I honored that part of her.
Right.
I stopped calling her my mom because I understood that this was something she was working through. And then I had to build trust with her, right? That I could take care of myself. And I had to show up in that way so that she could begin to, I remember when I started taking care of myself, there was almost that moment of her like, what do I do? Like in this space, like, what do I do now? Like, I don't need to take care of you. And it was like, oh, cool. Dell's like, I get to take care of myself. And all of a sudden she starts taking care of her needs and she starts doing things for herself and she starts to grow in that way. She starts to feel better, right? And this happens on all types of dynamics that you already have within you that your twin's going to bring out. So it's something that looks so hard that you can't get through. It's the very thing that's being brought forth.
Yes.
Stuttering today, being brought forth so that you can look at it and you can begin to dismantle it so that you can be in harmony with yourself first and each other.
Yeah. And so, I know there's a lot more we want to say, and I think it's probably going to come out in some of the questions that have occurred, but I just want to say, union is glorious and beautiful and brings incredible light. And because we exist in complex duality. We exist in, paradox. We also, a very real part of it is the shadow components. And it gives you opportunity. There are a few ways. I don't usually use the word enlightenment, right? But there was an amazing leader and teacher, and he said, there are several quick ways to enlightenment. Marriage is of the top 3, right? And so when I think about, twin flame union, I kind of, for me, it's like, and this is an evolution path. So when you get into this, right, you're being refined.
Yes.
Your shadow is going to come because you are being refined. This is the path to clarity. It's the path to enlightenment, and it's rapid, right? There is a rapidness to it. When we are on our own, we are able to sort of maintain certain boxes and behaviors, right? We can say, I'm going to shove all of this stuff over here, and I seem like I have all of my shit together, and it's in this box. When you're in union, that box gets kicked open by your partner and dumped out on the floor every other day. You really can't keep it up there on the shelf or in a neat box or in like your really, really nice, Tupperware. It doesn't work that way, right? And so it's really interesting to see how that it really accelerates us. And I say to people all the time, to our clients, I'm like, you think you have your shit together until you're with a divine counterpart or you're with your twin flame and you're being mirrored in this sort of consistent way. And that crazy comes up and you go, where did that come from? And it was already in there, right? It was something that was ancestral or something that was, came up in behavior or learned behavior as you grew up. So, whatever it is. And it's just wild to be able to look at that and to be able to accept our shadow and the components in there as guides to information and to pieces that can be released. And then to do that as a team is a very critical piece, because judgment really doesn't have a place in healing, and it really doesn't have a place in your union as well. It won't get you anywhere.
Girl, I trust you in my messy.
I trust you in my messy.
I do. I trust you in my messy. And that's important, to trust each other in the messy parts, because it's messy and it's painful. And when you find someone that can hold you in your mess and love you in your mess, I mean, that's where healing happens. And we've held each other in our mess. And we've also not done that, and it got ugly. But for the most part, our souls are big enough to hold it, to house it. It's what we came here to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So let's take a step back here. How would you define shadow? Let's just put some language around this for understanding it for people.
That's a good question. You know, I think that there are so many ways that people define shadow. You know, for me, it's the parts that I think we find to be messier, the wounds, the behaviors, the the spaces in which we feel deep discomfort, where we are taught to lean towards comfort, the aspects in it. So for me, it's not just the balance of the sort of inherent light, night, day, sort of light, darkness in us, but the pieces that I think people really struggle with in terms of what they want to keep to themselves, or what they even struggle with themselves dealing with. And I think that for us, some examples of the things that we were dealing with were some of the very deep rooted wounds and pains and psychological patterns that sort of built from that. And the rages that didn't know where to be put, and the fears that didn't know how to be managed, and the thought forms and the stories that really bred sort of and became demons, and do for many people. And that can be a very consuming part of our shadow.
Yeah, I look at it as this duality of choice. Sometimes we get abused and it's out of our hands, but after that, it's like the choices that create life, right? The light, these choices that are in alignment with self, and the shadow is the choices that are misaligned, the distortion, the things that we make from ego. I always see egoic mind in the shadow. It's that space of just trying to make yourself feel comfortable or safe, when, that might be in complete misalignment for you. We tend to get into trouble in that space. And so I always look at it as choice.
Yeah.
And it's a great, a great contrast, right? The contrast of being in alignment, making choices that bring forth joy, making choices that light you up, understanding certain truths about yourself and feeling confident in that. And then when you go into that other space, you get anxiety when you're making choices out of alignment. You feel depressed sometimes, right? You can't see past your feet. You're only thinking about self. You are in your ego.
Yeah. And, I was hearing some of you guys wanting me to expand on one piece. And that is, I feel that we are multifaceted and multidimensional, and it's not about really removing all of those parts of ourselves, but it's also about letting them come out into the air and breathe and not be sort of infected, right? And that's where the observer mind allows things to not be in judgment and distortion, and they can come out into a space where they can be looked at, they can be transmuted, they can be cared for. And so, I think too, it's what we do with those things as well, what we do with those parts in of ourselves. It's not about rejecting those parts when we are experiencing them. It's not about criticizing or judging those parts. As I said, they give us so much information. They're there for a reason. They've been accumulated for a reason. And we get to choose, as Nicole said, like, do we want to continue to walk with them, or do we not want to continue to walk with them? But the best chance is for them to come out into the light and breathe, and for us to become, the observer in them.
Love it. Thank you so much. I love we put language around this concept of shadow, because on the other side of union, recognizing that those pieces, they still there. It's really helpful. So I guess that brings me to the next question. We do collectively seem to have some real narrative built up around what union will be like on the other side, and how we get into it, and all of this. So I guess I'm curious, you guys, you have a union, you have clients who are in union. What are the 4 biggest misconceptions that you've seen people have about this?
a great question.
It is. Do you want to go?
You can start if you'd like.
So I think that by watching clients and, paying attention to that stuff, and even including myself, I think that there's this idea that everything will be okay if I could just be with my twin flame. Like if I could just get into the relationship, it's going to be okay. And then like all of a sudden, like it hits you. It's like, oh shit. Like I've heard people say, I don't even know if I'm ready for this. This is crazy. I can't even deal with my emotions. I can't. And it's like the work starts when the union begins. It goes on a different level of work. It doesn't stop there. It actually starts there. And it gets a little hotter, right? I was just thinking about, the 8th house that you're talking about, the shadows. I was like, my 8th house of shadows got a little bit bigger when I met Duff. I went from this little shanty to a fucking castle. Sorry for cursing, to a castle of shadow. Like it expands because the light of being with your partner is just like opening it up. So, there's a lot to think about before you are getting into a relationship. And the one piece I want to say is, are you actually ready? Are you treating yourself the way you would like your partner to treat you? Because if you are not loving on yourself and you are not really taking care of yourself and you are not really in union with yourself, when you get into union, it's going to get spicy, right? Because all that stuff starts to come out, and you have to love yourself in this union, in this relationship. If you have to, you will get eaten up and spit it out. If you do not, you will not be able to hold a boundary. You will not be able to do a lot of things if you do not really love this and know that you are worthy to receive your partner fully. I have seen couples get into the relationship and not even be able to receive the love that their partner actually has for them. And it's big. And they're like, that's scary to me. I don't understand that. And so, there may be a little bit more work that needs to be done around self-love and self-care.
Yeah. Getting into union is not end game for the evolutionary process of the twin flame journey. It is definitely not. And it goes to the second point that I want to make, because the twin flame union. So when I speak about, so just in case I cross my terminology, when I speak about union, I also separate union and relationship, because I don't believe that the twin flame union only exists in the form of relationship. That goes into another concept, right? Of whether you're incarnated together in this and that, you always have a union. There's always a union in yourself and always a union with this divine counterpart. But the relationship is kind of a different story, right? So when you're getting into this relationship part of the union question, there has to be something more, right? So that's the second sort of misconception, is like, I'll just get into this relationship and it'll be the only focus of everything. So the relationship is very most often driven also by something other, because you're also here as individuals, twin flames, energy bringers of like evolution, paradigm shifting, a deeper consciousness of unconditional love on the planet. You're an active growth soul. You're an old soul that is evolving and actively in the space of evolution on this earth. And so there's usually a common desire to bring forth something. So this purpose or mission or bigger goal, right there, that needs to be also connected. And it's something that you will crave in the relationship. So they cannot fill your every little bit, and that is it. And that kind of goes to like subpart, B of, point 2, is that you need to allow yourselves to also be individuals. I hear a lot like, I'll be in union and then we'll just like melt together and, everything will just become one energy. Nicole and I have merged in so many ways that we could have like a different, podcast just on that particular thing. We can hear each other telepathically. We co-dream. We do all sorts of really interesting things, but we also are more individual in our 3-dimensionalness than we really ever have been. And that strengthens the bond.
Yes.
Right. So another sort of co-misconception is, I'm just going to melt into you and that's going to be the only focus of everything. There's still going to be drive. And in fact, the connection is going to pull a deeper drive to serve or to do something of impact on this planet. And in order to really strengthen that and the connection, there needs to be, this continuous evolving and expanding of you as an individual.
Another one is like, if I do enough work, you know, you kind of graduate to this harmonious state, and then it gets easier. And I have to tell you that it doesn't get easier. We show up in different ways to be able to handle where the soul is trying to take us, right? So like, the more Dove and I grow, the deeper in the shadow we go. We go into past lives. We go into deeper pains that we didn't even know were there, and we're prepared to do so. So it's something that, you know, we choose every day to do this shadow work and do work on ourselves, because as we grow, as high as we go is as low as we go, and as low as we go is as high as we go in ascension and growth in our consciousness. And so, you know, this is a daily choice that we both make to be together, you know, to be on mission together, and to hold space for one another in that.
Yeah, it does get less gnarly, though. I have to say,
It does.
It's much, much less gnarly.
It's different.
It's different. And then, you know, the other one I think I would say is a big misconception is that if you're a true twin flame or whatever, that you wouldn't have certain experiences, right? And I could go through a really long list, but I'll give you just like a couple, which is you wouldn't have addiction, you wouldn't have lying, you wouldn't have cheating, there wouldn't be. And I think that that is a really big misconception, because from my years of understanding in my own personal journey, you know, you would have any experience as a twin flame. You're still big, incredible souls having there is no one twin flame journey, right? It is not a cookie cutter sort of, this is what they all look like. And I think that can be very damaging for you to very strongly compare yours in a way, right? We want this information and everybody's information to help create guideposts, but you have an individual journey. You have things that you want to experience, and you have agreements as souls, right? So you can go through really anything because there's still the human, you know, and I want to just give a little like subtext to that as a warning and say, twin flame or not, if you are in an extremely negative situation, extremely abusive situation, right? The concept should never have you stick with that situation, at least in the 3-dimension, if that's not a safe, you know, situation for you. And I say that all the time because I think we can get lost in that. But really, I believe that twins can have any experience, and I don't think that that cancels out what your relationship is. Yeah, so I think that was 4 and some subparts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually counted out 5 here. So we'll just recap for everyone just joining. If you're just joining, please hit that like button, helps the content circulate. First misconception about union that you see your clients have is that union is somehow the goal. And once you're there, everything's going to be okay. It's like it's some kind of magic antidote or magic land. The second one is that the relationship will be enough. Once I'm there, I'll be somehow satisfied, and we'll just kind of merge together as this one harmonious, glorious being. You have revealed that there actually has to be something more that pulls the two of you toward greater expression of self, which led us to number 3. Misconception is that I can't be an individual with my own desires and drives, that we have to somehow do something together. We have to be together, do it all together. It's all the togetherness. We can't be individuals in this.
And we do a lot together, and we're still very much individuals. Yeah. And we work, live, play together.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. And simultaneously, I'm sure you've met them, twin flame couples who don't work together, but live together.
Yeah.
Right. Twin flame couples who don't live together or work together, but are together. Yeah. There's, as you mentioned, many different formats a union can take. Fourth misconception, if you do enough work, it'll get easier. I call this, if you eat enough of your healing vegetables or your work vegetables, you can have your twin flame cake or your union cake. It doesn't work like that. Number 5, if you're a twin, you won't have certain experiences. It's just, again, it's a mythology, this misconception of there's some kind of mythical Neverland that you can have if you can just find or be in union with your twin flame. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well put. Thank you for laying those out. Sounds like you have discovered some alternate realities, which is awesome. And that brings me to the next question. Does running and chasing still happen post union, but just in other or smaller ways? How might that look? And how have you seen yourself or your clients overcome it?
Yeah. I want Nicole to talk about the concept of where running and chasing really originates from. But I would say that it absolutely can still occur and will still occur where the root of what is causing it is still unresolved for you as an individual. And so, one example of how I had sort of engaged in the runner chaser dynamic early on that is a little less obvious, I think, is that I started to shut down and I became emotionally unavailable. And that was a form of running because I wasn't showing up for our connection, for the relationship, or myself. The runner chaser dynamic, or the runner aspect to it, is really the running away from self.
Yes.
Right. It is not about the other person, but it creates that gap. And the chasing is the unresolved wound that you are desiring to fill. So it's, you're not here and I'm trying to fill my wound with you. And that is scary for me. And so I'm going to chase it. If you are full and your wounds are tended to, and they're not open and gaping, there isn't the desire to chase in that way. Doesn't mean you won't crave them. It doesn't mean you won't fight for them. It doesn't mean you won't show up for them. But we're talking about a particular dynamic, the runner chaser dynamic, which is something, by the way, that we talk about in our work all the time, that can be avoided, right? And it will come up to the extent that there isn't conscious choice and unraveling of those things and of the reason that it occurs.
Yeah. So many of you know what the ego mind is, but just to give it like a quick little, if you don't, the part of the brain that, kept us safe all these years, like if a lion's, not that a lion's going to be chasing me, maybe a Florida, Panther cougar could be chasing me. Like I'm going to get anxious and I'm going to want to run. I'm going to know that there's danger. It's like danger, danger, danger. And now in the world that we are, in the technology that we have, danger is not really that, but everything can feel dangerous. And so what happens is the brain wants to create ways to make itself feel safe. And so running or bypassing, right, or being ignorant to things or hiding and not looking, right, is one way of comfort. And also chasing, right, is a way of trying to control the situation so that you feel better and that you're comforted. Either right, are out of alignment for self, because there's this level of not facing self and then trying to control, especially another person. The person being controlled ain't gonna like that. It feels so gross. It's just like your whole insides, it throws the polarity off. But you understand, once you understand that you are doing this and why you are doing it, maybe you were abandoned and you lost control of, that part of your life, and it feels better. And once you start to see these things, Dev and I had dialogues. We have our clients have dialogues about these things. When they come up, that we're able to actually like go, oh, whoa, I am really trying to avoid you right now. I am really trying to, or sometimes I might be trying to be a little controlling and Dev's got to check my ass, right? And like at first I might not receive it well. And then later on, I'll just like, babe, you're right. And we have this conversation so that we can, hey, I need some space right now. I'm feeling really uncomfortable right now. I'm feeling not loved by you right now. I really need you to hold me right now because I'm in a weak moment. And what starts to happen is you can kind of dance instead of actually running and chasing.
Yeah, I want to say one last thing on this because it's a big subject. And of course, there's so much more. Runner chaser dynamic will present itself to the extent that you will abandon yourself. Okay. So it's going to show up to the extent that you're going to abandon yourself. And that is going to be that core work, because to run from somebody is really not to run from them, especially a twin flame. It is to run from you. So if you're ready to abandon yourself in that way, you're ready to want to get away from yourself. You have shame about your behavior. You feel scared about your ability to transform yourself. You don't know how to deal with an emotion. You haven't processed a wound that can come up. And the grasping and the chasing is also a form of abandonment, because you've got you over here that needs you. And you're running towards somebody that is avoiding you, and you're grasping at somebody that might be mistreating you, and you're grasping at somebody that might be unavailable for you. And that makes you unavailable for you. And when you're really available for you, you go, hey, I'm here. I love you. I want you to show up. I'm also not running down the road to get you.
Come on.
Right? But I'm here when you want to be home, and I'm going to talk to you up here. I'm going to connect with your soul up here. Right? And because Nicole talked about this as an ego dynamic, another like way up around that is really important is then you need to be at soul connection. You need to do the work also together at soul connection so that you're not just hitting each other at that ego space. You want to come back to heart. That resets the polarity and it resets the dynamic when you're trying to navigate this.
Love that. I feel like you've already answered part of the next question. This is such rich information. I'm seeing here in the chat, people are taking notes. They've got little exploding head emojis, eye-opening emojis. This is awesome.
Love it. Thank you guys.
Thank you
so much.
So I guess then I want to go back to something that you had said as an example, that the thing that can happen when you're in union is that these like little micro shutdowns or little micro insertions of ego, of either wanting to control or moderate the experience in some form or fashion. In a union experience, you mentioned emotionally shutting down. You mentioned wanting to control the other person and what they are doing or not doing. What are some of the other concrete examples you see from clients or from self around where that running and chasing thing happens in a post-union state?
Sure. So I think a couple too that are coming to mind also from our experiences, using substances, right? Any sort of behavior that can be avoidant to self. You know, interesting also, right? This is no comment to, and I think we may talk about that again another time, no comment to people's choice to open their relationship. But I've seen some clients like open their relationship into a polyamorous relationship when that wasn't really in alignment with what they wanted to do. It was a type of sort of sabotage and a type of running because the intensity was getting big and that created an explosion. Those are the pieces that are kind of
I love when Deb said sabotage. I think that one of the main things I've seen in relationships is sabotage with people going back to, painful choices, whether addiction or cheating or just actually running. Like Deb and I are not like running out of the house with our luggage down the street anymore because I've been there with like a garbage bag, packed my shit and, just like running down the street. Nah! Deb's like chasing me and then not chasing me. And like, this actually happened. And the neighbors were like, what in the hell is going on with these girls? But
I've definitely run down a New York City street.
Barefoot. Well, maybe not barefoot.
Not in New York City.
She wouldn't do that.
But I have
in Florida. Maybe.
I have run down a New York City street chasing her.
But yeah, you'll see people sabotage because and you think it's about the other person, but it's really always about the self-sabotage, because there's a lot of fear that comes up specifically when things are going really well in the relationship. And I want to say this, you guys, there are times, because two of the biggest fears is like, if you have something and you lose it, right? Or that's the second fear is I'm not going to get what I actually want, but to have something and lose it, when things start getting good and you've had a lot of not good in your life, your whole being wants to bring back not good and blows it up in some sort of way.
Yeah.
And one or both of you will, I promise, do it at some point because of fear.
Right. Yeah. Bringing up, on that point, like specific things, I've seen clients bring up, old problems that they had together. They'd make problems up. People can actually like make up arguments and problems over nothing because they are really trying to explode the fact that they're uncomfortable with the fact that things are going well, or they don't know how to receive. Nicole said before, you want to be ready to receive. You want to be able to like really receive that love. That's why we talk a lot about if you have issues with lack in your life, around financial lack, it actually will present in your union. It will show up as lack as well. In your ability, your fundamental energetic core around those things are the same. It's like, how much can I receive and how much can I express energy? How much can I receive energy? How much can I express energy? Because those things are the same. And, so when people struggle with that receivership, they will just shut down the ability to receive, not taking compliments, not seeing when somebody is there for you, not appreciating, complaining about, little things, unnecessary things, just to create sort of havoc and chaos. Those are they're really big.
Thank you.
Wow. Well, how do people overcome it then, man? Like, what do they do? What is the answer? What happens?
Yeah, I think that it comes back, and I'll say this all of the time. I think it really just comes back to being able to do the work as an individual with what did you come into this earth with? What are you carrying with you? How do you get that center core inside of you to feel like it is calming down? What techniques do you use? What tools, what work? And for us, we did a tremendous amount of work individually and separately, because I believe also that for the union to thrive, and for really any relationship to thrive, you both need to be growing individually at a fairly, similar rate, right? Like, you can't have one person that just has no desire to grow or to understand or evolve, and another person that's just ripped the top off of their evolutionary process. It just becomes so inconsistent energetically. And so, going to that core of what causes you to want to get away from yourself. How do you stay present with you? Because if you can stay present with you, you create space for them to stay present with you. How do you allow yourself to stay in your heart center as much as possible? Right? If you're in wound, you can't be in your heart, right? That's why I talk about the wound, because the wound is not allowing you to be in your heart. If you're in your heart, love, I have to tell you that love is, and this is really not a cliche, especially within the confines of the twin flame connection, where there's also a whole aspect of a sort of spiritual and energetic challenges that we're not talking about here today. That's a whole other aspect of kind of shadow that you can face, or the external shadow that can come at this beautiful light of your union. Right? And I don't say that in a victim-y way. Love is an incredible transmuter in your relationship of anything that's going on. Like, if you look at your partner and you're standing present with the love that you have for yourself, which means you've tended to, the oxygen mask has gone on you, and they're struggling and they're wanting to run away and they're wanting to avoid, and you look them dead in the face and you're there and you're like, I see you and I love you and I'm here. And you do not inside of you have this grasping or pulling or the desire to manipulate, because you've already met yourself. You have met yourself. That means you have resourced yourself to approach that partner that is wanting to run away. It transforms, right? It really has the highest level of ability to transform. And the other thing that I want to say to you, and right, so in the reverse, doing that for yourself, if you're like wanting to avoid, and having tools and support, it's really a non-negotiable. It's such a complex relationship and dynamic and energetic evolutionary process. I say to people all the time, like, you can walk down the hallway blindfolded with the lights off, trying to get to the door, or you can walk down the hallway with the lights on and somebody holding your hand with a guide and like a cane and a stick and like lights going down the path and the door with a giant sign that says what's on the other side. Why? We don't need to do it that way, right? We're meant to do it together. People have experiences. Nicole and I walked through massive confusion, right? So that we would have some answers, so maybe a little bit less confusing.
Yeah. And just to top it off with, having mentors that Dove and I've had, were able to help me identify when I was doing certain things. And then that's also too, once I got grown, I was a grown boy, was able to like really observe myself. I started to see when I would do certain things, and it took a really long time to see them, because I would do them over and over. And then finally I would just start to see, like, for instance, I would always want to sabotage when we had a big thing come up for our business that was meant so much to me. I would start a fight with Dove like weeks before. And I started to see me and I was like, you're just so scared because this means so much to you that you're starting a fight with your wife. There's nothing going on. And then I was able to not do that by identifying it. So even right now, as you're living your life and y'all got your notepads out, as things come up for you, if you see something that keeps coming up, start to write about it. Start to see what you feel in that moment. There's so much information when it's happening. If you can stop yourself and actually do it, where you'll start to see like, oh, now I know why I did that, and realize it had nothing to do with the relationship. It had to do with me. And then you take responsibility for it. And when that happens, and then you tell your partner, hey, I'm taking responsibility because this is like my old shit. Something happens in that. There's trust, there's communication, there's growth.
Yeah, Nicole said something so good. And it's sort of just a counterpart I want to say to all of you guys, or counterpoint. do not forget to keep your eyes on yourself. It's very easy to take your twins inventory or the shit they're not showing up for. First of all, that does make them want to run energetically, right? This is the micro running. It does make them want to not show up in that way because they feel that pressure and they feel that like expectation. They feel you focusing on them. And it doesn't mean you can't call them on their stuff, right? That's not what I'm saying. You can feel the difference, but we can easily miss our stuff. And right, yes, that is the part you have 100% control over, your stuff.
Come on.
So the more you become an observer of what's going on for you, right? And of course, we don't see all of our stuff. That's why I advocate for support. That's why I always have support, right, in my own life, because we have blind spots. But as Nicole said, you can start to observe and you will see a lot of stuff. And when you show up in that place of like, hey, even if your partner did something 80% and you just had that 20%, when you show up with this is what I contributed to that, you really open the door for a different type of dynamic, and you open the door for them to take more responsibility, right? It's their choice. They might not take the responsibility, but you're opening the door for it. You're creating a totally different dynamic. And that alleviates and reduces the sort of imbalance of that, runner chaser or grasping and avoidance, right? So anxious, avoidant, because it kind of goes also to the bonding styles, right? Of anxious and avoidant, runner, chaser. They can come out in those ways on a micro scale.
Amazing. Wow, such rich content. I can't tell you how thrilled I am to be taking notes myself, like really taking this in. I'm going to give you guys the choice because I know we want to wrap up on time here. You guys want to stop by 1:15, is that correct?
Yeah.
I want to give you the choice. We can either do a mini exercise or meditation to activate our inner union energy, or we can do listener Q&A. I'm going to ask you guys what you are feeling into is the right next step.
I would love you to ask the audience, give them just like 10 seconds to see, maybe we get the first 5 comments or something and see what would you guys rather? Would you rather us do some energy or would you rather take some of your questions?
Let's do it. Meditation or Q&A, guys. What do you prefer?
Yeah,
we'll find out.
We're here for you guys. I want to show up in the way that feels most aligned for you.
That's good.
Yeah, right. Good stuff. And so while you guys are thinking through that, I did go ahead and paste here in the chat for you a link to a free audio activation that Dove and Nicole have provided for you guys and a link to their community. One of the things, I mean, Dove just talked about this. It's so critical to, if you are working this path, working this journey, to not be doing it alone. And as much stuff as we can do to get support, because it's such a unique path and not many people are going to understand it. I mean, I'm sure even post-union, you two were probably told by external sources multiple times, please break up. Why are you with that person?
Yeah, absolutely.
My therapist.
Yeah, absolutely. I think actually one of, if not the most critical component to staying in your union is having, it doesn't have to be a million sources of support, but you need to have a strong source of support from a source that understands what it is that you are going through. And that is really specific, right? We now don't only have support that understands the twin flame journey. We don't need that to be exclusive, right? But we do always have some form of support that understands truly that from an energetic standpoint. And so, whatever that looks like for you, that is a critical component to navigate any of the stuff we talked about today. And to just be able to be in this relationship, in that form of union, in a way that is working for you and is evolving and feels good and is fair to you guys, because so much of the stuff that can happen can be avoided or can be resolved by understanding what the heck is going on.
Beautiful. Thank you. The votes are in. We're doing a meditation.
Hey. All right. And thank you guys for weighing in and sharing, and definitely check out that activation we dropped in there. That's something you guys can do all of the time. And I even have, so sweet, I have to tell you guys this. My dad sends me a message all the time and goes, I go to sleep with your activation every night. So even if you're not, worried about the twin flame concept or whatever it is, listen to the activation. It's really nice because we all have a union within us as well. And so that's our gift for you. So, but I am going to twin specific open some space here for you guys to do just a few minutes. And I'm just going to channel that through whatever comes through. I'm just going to invite you to lower your gaze or close your eyes, find a center, whatever feels good for you, and receive what feels good for you at the highest level, remembering that you are a sovereign being. And I'm just inviting this activation and this channel for you if you want to receive it. And immediately I saw a beautiful council around all of you. And so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring forth the support from the other realms for your union, for your union with yourself, for your union with the divine counterpart. We often forget that we are supported by many, many beings and many, many energies that we don't see. And so we can feel very alone in this journey. And although it's important that we connect here at the 3D, in this moment, I also want to bring to you your teams. And so if you are needing any updating of guides or support at that union level, I'm going to ask that that be upgraded so that you are able to have the clearest and wisest guidance in your connection with your divine and the agreements that the two of you had in this space. And as you're breathing and finding your rhythm, I'm going to ask you to imagine that you're floating up above your body now, knowing that your body is safe and that your body is secured, feeling the strength of Mother Earth holding that body, but feeling as you float up, I'm going to ask that any restrictions that you have imposed or other energies have sort of accumulated, restrictions on your beliefs of union that are limiting you, restrictions on your energy, other third-party projections, your own projections, just start falling away like chains, falling away like shackles. You start noticing your energy becoming more and more and more golden as you're moving up, finding yourself in this sphere, this rainbow angelic sphere that is coded, right? Christ coded, angelic coded, Merkaba coded, all of these geometric strengths around this. You find yourself in that center. I invite your counterpart, that divine twin. And it's not their ego showing up, it's their bright, bright, golden, light platinum soul. And I also ask for anything that they would like to receive, any shackles that they would like removed. And also just removing from the union any distortion, any shadows, any projections. And we're going to ask to release some of the past life pain in this moment, some pain of original separation, the pain of betrayal from different lifetimes. And the most that you are able to in this moment, because it's a layered process, I want you to imagine literally putting it down like bricks, being willing to put down the energetics of your past lives, putting down the pains and betrayals of this life, putting down the pains, putting down the wounds. And bring your hand to your heart, because I want you in that moment to comfort you. I want you to feel the connection to yourself in this moment. I spoke about the union with you being so critical. This union with your counterpart is the union with you and cannot occur in the 3D without your care for your 3D self. So bringing all of that compassion and love, maybe you wrap your arms around yourself, all of that love that you have for this divine counterpart, all of that love and care you have, you start to infuse it into you. You start to infuse it into your parts and your inner children, into your heart. And do you feel like you're going to burst? And all of that energy, and if you're having struggles with feeling the ability to love yourself, call in the love that you have for that counterpart and just start redirecting it in. When your heart chakra and space feels like it's going to burst and open, only then I want you to allow yourself to beam that energy out towards that counterpart and not feel like it's depleting, but it's expanding you. And the more that you give, the more that you are receiving from source. And the more that you beam out, the more you can receive their love, the more you feel that you are love. You start dropping away those ego parts. You start dropping away the fear, dropping away the expectations, dropping away the need for it to look a certain way, and you just feel connection. You just feel that bliss, that safety, that knowing of connection to source, that oneness that you feel with everything. We're going to pull in that energy now down into your body. So as you slowly come back down into your body, pull all of that light, all of those codes, all of that activation, all of that refueling, all of that goodness, it starts to come down through the crown. We open all of the systems and the chakras, the meridians. We open this pillar of light through the core of your being, opening your central channel down into the earth, allowing there to be space, the ability to receive, dear one, receive. If you find your legs are crossed, your arms are crossed, open them up. If your palms are facing them down, allow them to face up. If your head is down, allow your crown to start to reach up. Receive, dear one. You are held. You are held. You are loved. You are connected always. Allowing the remembrance of this divine union to activate even more fully. That love to fill all and to touch all those places of wounding and pain. Light from the central sun filling your entire space, filling golden light in your home or wherever you're finding yourself, your vehicle, place of work. And as you breathe in more fully all of these blessings of the union, breathe out all the pain and the grief. Allow the lungs to be filled with crystalline light. Breathing in, and each exhale out of your mouth, breathing out that grief. Breathing in the peace that's here in the present moment. And don't let your mind go to the past or the future. The present moment, you are connected. You are loved. You are supported. Breathe out those fears. Take 3 still breaths here in this moment, feeling your body tingle, feeling the activation of the chi, feeling the presence of all these supportive parts, feeling the love and the smile. So many of your divine counterparts are just smiling with so much love and grace, and you are smiling back. So far from ego, knowing that everything is well, everything is perfect. Taking the time to raise your gaze and to open your eyes when you're ready, with a moment of gratitude, giving yourself a moment of gratitude for being here in this moment, knowing that you are not the same person that started this process an hour ago. You are not the same person that started this activation moments ago. And that this moment is whole and perfect, and that you are whole and perfect, and allowing yourself to receive that in a way that you maybe haven't before. And breathing deeply into that, finding that gratitude for yourself, finding that gratitude for this moment. Finding that gratitude for your resilience that has got you into this space. And all the things you have done so beautifully, even if they were messy, even if they were in your shadow, they were all designed to get you here, and you did it well. If you are here and you are hearing this message, then you have succeeded. You have succeeded in keeping yourself alive and tending to yourself well enough. And there is always expansion that you can have, and you are welcome to open that journey. But first, with gratitude for the beautiful work. And I know some of you are saying, you don't know what I have done or been through, so you can't tell me I've done a beautiful job. I promise that you have done a beautiful job.
Yes. There's nothing wrong with you. You know, when I was junked out on the streets on heroin, there was still nothing wrong with me. I was perfect. I was a perfect being. I made choices because I was hurting.
Mm-hmm.
I made choices from wounds. I made choices from places because I didn't think I could live here and be clean. I made those choices, but I was perfect. I had to start seeing myself perfect then. And even now in the messy, oh, I love being messy. I love the shadow, love being messy. That messiness got me here. That messiness showed me what I did not want. That messiness, and I am a stubborn Capricorn, like stubborn. Pisces rising, just stubborn, so stubborn. And I had to learn by failure and mistake and love myself anyways and get up and love myself anyways. And we get to hold, when Dove was speaking and we were doing meditation, I saw all of us painting the night sky with our shadow. And we were just like smudging it like all over. It was just like this dark sky. And then all of a sudden, like I saw all your souls just like peeking out like stars. I was like everywhere. And we lit it up, right? We lit it up and we were holding it together, right? This union that we all house, as above, so below. We have the heavens here now, as within, so without. Everything you're going through is going to manifest outside yourself. There's all these unions happening to show you yourself and to maybe show you some things that need to change, and that's okay. And also to show you all these amazing things that you are, that you get to embrace now.
Yes.
And we love you in your messiness.
We love you.
We love you in your messiness. We love you in your bad choices. We see you in your bad choices. It is okay. It is okay that you fucking drive your twin nuts. It is okay. We drive each other nuts. We also love each other so much.
And we love you. Thank you both. Such a treat, a pleasure, an honor, an activation, and a gift to be here with you both today. For those of you who are listening, if you haven't already, I invite you and encourage you to hit that like button. Certainly helps content that's breakthrough like this circulate. The audio activation that Dove and Nicole have provided to you for free has been pinned to the top of the chat and just dropped in that chat again. You can always go deeper with Dove and Nicole if you're ready for community, ready for monthly support, ready to have somewhere to talk about this and move through this. You can join their private community where they do monthly calls and host an online group so that you won't have to be so alone in this journey. Link has been dropped in the chat and will be placed below this video. You can find out more about Dove and Nicole on their website, also linked below this video, and so too will the ability to subscribe to their YouTube channel. Dove and Nicole, gosh, I wish we lived closer together. You guys are amazing. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us and for creating this space. What a gift. I know all these amazing beings, channels, healers, teachers are sharing this space this week, and it's really from your creation. So thank you for making that space. And, so glad for all of you guys that are here listening and those that will be watching in the future. Please connect with us. We're also on Instagram and Facebook, Twin Flame Revolution. For those of you guys that are on TikTok, Dove and Nicole, we try to, really diversify as much content in so many different areas, twin flame and other subjects for you guys to be part of. So we hope that you'll be part of our community as well.
All right. Thank you so much, you guys. Tomorrow we are joined by Channel for Grace, Jai Gobind. She's going to dive into the astrology aspects of the shadow. Be here for that. And we'll also be joined by Ali's Tarot, how to use tarot to find and embrace your own shadow. I hope you'll join me as well on Monday for a light language healing and activation to wrap up Shadow Work Week and integrate all these intense energies with Lana, Healer Medicine Woman. And you can find the timing for all of that in the community section of this channel. I'm your host, Kay Moon, Twin Flame Astrologer and Western Astrologer and Twin Flame Channel. But if you'd like to not have to worry about managing time, I strongly suggest you subscribe and hit the notification bell, because as soon as we go live, you will be notified. Thanks so much, everyone.